Oh, did we lose Jennifer?
I think we lost her.
I think we did. Okay, I'm sure we'll get her back. Okay, she said her power went down and she's rebooting her computer. Should be back shortly.
Hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, let me share my screen and we'll get
Okay.
started.
Great.
I don't know what happened. It just
Yeah.
happens.
Yes, technical glitches happen. Part of life these days.
I'm getting there. Everything just, I mean, as soon as she said, "Are you ready?" It shut off.
I'm good. You're going.
Okay, thank you. Okay, sorry for the delay, everyone. Welcome to tonight's public. Oh, wrong screen. Time out. It didn't save my work. Hang on 1 second, please. Sorry. Now it should be good. Sorry for the delay. We did have some technical difficulties, but tonight we will be sharing with you our draft ADA transition plan. This is a public information meeting regarding that draft plan. And just to give you some background on kind of what has brung us to this development of this plan, the City of Goldsboro and the Goldsboro NPO requested proposals back in the end of 2019 to assist the city and the NPO with the development of an ADA transition plan and also some Title VI program update assistance. The city and the NPO demonstrated deficiencies on a combination of compliance factors when a compliance review was performed in June and September of 2019 concerning ADA and Title VI programs. From that moment on, to correct those deficiencies, the city did solicit for RFQs regarding qualifications for a consultant to help the city and the NPO develop an ADA transition plan, as well as bring the city and the NPO into compliance with Title VI standards. Upon our review of proposals submitted, the city and the NPO did contract and go into an agreement with McMillan and Company, LLC. And beginning roughly around October of 2019, we began services with McMillan to develop the plan as well as Title VI compliances. So roughly around January, we started the ADA transition plan, and even though it's been a little lengthy, we did have issues with COVID. Everyone understands that COVID did delay some of our scheduling, as McMillan is out of Philadelphia, and they had to travel restrictions and those sort of things. And the consultant will go over with you kind of the synopsis of the plan and steps taken to get us to this draft. At this time, I will turn it over to Kristen with McMillan, and she will walk through the plan with you.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. So to fill everyone in on why we were doing this a little bit more detail is, and what this transition plan is this transition plan fulfills the requirements of Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, which prohibits public entities, including the City of Goldsboro, from excluding or denying persons with disabilities from the participation in and benefits of the service and programs or activities that the city provides. And since the City of Goldsboro is an entity with 50 or more employees, they're required to also provide written policies and procedures that provide accessibility to programs, services, and activities, and also to conduct a self-evaluation assessment. So while we are assisting, it's as Jennifer explained, it was to address some of the issues and an evaluation that the state conducted, but also to assist the city in fulfilling its Title II ADA non-discrimination requirements. So the project was set up as 3 tiers or 3 phases, so to speak. The self-evaluation and transition plan includes an administrative review, which is a review of the city's programs and services to determine any gaps in ADA compliance and to provide preliminary observations and findings regarding policies and procedures. So this also included looking at the city's website. It looked at the kinds of services and programs the city provides. Many of those our activities are provided through the Parks and Rec department. So we looked at how the city provides those services. Our next step in the project was to conduct a self-evaluation, which includes a barrier assessment review of city facilities. It also included curb ramps and sidewalks across the city as well. And what we were looking for is what kind of physical barriers persons with disabilities would encounter in accessing these facilities in order to use the programs and services that the city provides. And then again, as I said earlier, we also looked at curb ramps and sidewalks across the city. So to see what sort of condition they were in, to see do they meet the ADA requirements. And then the final phase of this particular ADA project is the development of the transition plan. The transition plan is a guide on how to remove the barriers of accessibility. It includes capital project prioritization, cost estimates, and a long-term schedule for improvements with public input and comment. And that is part of what we are doing today. So this is all laid out in the Department of Justice's regulations as part of the Americans with Disabilities Act. I do want to highlight that the project did have some limitations. This project was focused solely on the facilities and curb ramps and sidewalks within the city limits of Goldsboro. So it does not include Wayne County facilities, any other quasi-public agencies or authorities. Those entities as separate authorities receive their own federal funding, and therefore they are directly responsible for maintaining their compliance with federal laws and regulations that govern accessibility. So not included in this transition plan is the Human Resources Department, because that's covered under Title I of the ADA. Also not included is the Goldsboro Wayne Transportation Authority. That would be the transit service. They are their own authority, and so therefore they are subject to their own regulations regarding ADA. Also not included is the Goldsboro Housing Authority, also as a separate authority. There are specific regulations regarding ADA and the provision of housing. Wayne County Public Schools and the Wayne County Public Library are also excluded because they are not a part of the city of Goldsboro. So some of the project highlights were a physical assessment that was conducted of 40 facilities, as well as I said, curb ramps and well over 300,000 linear feet of sidewalk. This is distributed all across the city. As a result of the administrative review, we recommended that the city develop new policies and procedures. All of the ADA policies and procedures have since been updated and are being prepared for July implementation. They'll be released to the public officially in July. These policies and procedures include an ADA non-discrimination public notice, a reasonable modification request form for anyone who needs to request a modification of a program or service in order to be able to gain access to it because of a disability, a grievance procedures and form so that if there is an ADA issue that is encountered that needs to be addressed, the public can submit a grievance. These are all required policies and procedures by the Department of Justice. We also recommended that the city develop a website accessibility policy and procedures, because this is an area where increasingly people are using the internet and electronic resources and websites in order to gain access to information. And there are best practices around that. So there was a policy developed for website accessibility, as well as policies and procedures for effective communication, for events put on by the city. We also recommended some operational improvements, including determining the roles and responsibilities in terms of implementing ADA policies and procedures, and some training around ADA. And the other highlight is that the city has since identified an ADA coordinator that the public, should they need to request information or have to request a modification of a program or service, the city has now identified a person who would be a contact person for that, which is also something that's required by the Department of Justice. So those are all good things that are happening. The transition plan itself, the results of the physical barrier assessment, as I said, we assessed 40 facilities. We did find out after the fact that some of those facilities are not under the city's direct control, but they were assessed. And the part of the way that a transition plan is drafted is that the Department of Justice has priorities, and those priorities are assigned a ranking of 1 through 4. So a facility or a site that is assessed with a priority 1 means that it has the most limitations in terms of accessibility. A priority 2 would be you can gain access to, you might be able to gain access to a facility, but you can't access all the programs and services that it provides. A priority 3 deals primarily with restrooms and access to public toilets. And a priority 4 captures anything else. Those are the more minor barriers that people might encounter, like a fast door closing speed, or a coat hook in an accessible toilet stall that is mounted too high, an improper doorknob as opposed to a door lever that makes it very difficult for someone to open the door by themselves. So those are the priority 4. And then we also coded facilities that we did at the time of the assessment that we found had no ADA issues at the time of the assessment. And so we could have categorized those as priority 0, or facilities that had no issues at the time of the site visit. So overall, in terms of the facilities, and I'm going to share my screen with everyone so that you can see a map, and all of this information is included in the public draft that's been put out by the city of the transition plan. And so I'm just going to get to my map and I will share this with you. Get to my correct screen. Give me 1 second. There it is. Get to the right place. Okay. So as you can see, we have a map in the plan that shows the location of the facilities, and they're coded by priority. Priority 1, we only found 1 facility in the entire city that we classified as a priority 1, and that is the senior center located at Herman Park. That facility is not accessible to persons with physical disabilities, I should clarify. The ADA transition plan, the way that the regulations are drafted, does focus heavily on physical limitations, but that's not to say that cognitive issues are not also a part of the city's priority in terms of providing programs and services. So as you can see, we had one priority 1 facility. There's a handful of priority 2s and priority 3s, and all of these facilities are scattered across the city. So there really is not one area of the city where there was a concentration of facilities that that had ADA issues and need to be updated. But 80% of the facilities we assessed did have at least one ADA issue, even if that was a fast door closing speed or a coat hook that was too high. We capture everything. So we had 8 facilities that we determined had no issue at the time of the assessment. That is very good. It's better than to have no issues is a good thing. And so we were pleased to see, particularly the newer facilities, such as I apologize, I just went out of my head. But there's some new recreation facilities, particularly recreation is putting in some new restrooms. They were all compliant, except for some maybe minor issues like a high coat hook or a faucet that maybe needed to be changed out. But other than that, we are very pleased to see that the newer facilities and the updates that the city is making are compliant with the physical standards around ADA. So, and then I wanted to also talk about the sidewalks and curb ramps. So to go to that map, you'll see the concentration of where there are issues for sidewalks and curb ramps. This is a map of the issues that were found regarding non-compliant curb ramps. And as you can see, many of those are concentrated around the downtown area heavily. We did find some issues in the outlying areas of the city, but it's primarily around in and around downtown. And then the same thing with sidewalks. As you can see, the sidewalks are themselves concentrated around downtown Goldsboro, but those issues are also concentrated there. And I just want to point out there is this anomaly. It looks like an anomaly down here. That is actually the golf course. The golf course, I wanted to highlight that the golf course itself is accessible. It's rare to see that. All 18 holes of the golf course are accessible. That was wonderful to see. It's just that there were some sections of the cartway that needed some repair, but no sections of the cartway were in terrible condition. It's still usable. It just needs to be some repair. So focusing on the center of downtown, as you can see, there are some areas right in the core of downtown along Center Street. You know that there have been some sidewalk and curb ramp improvements recently. So just to the east and to the west of Center Street is where we started to see some issues with sidewalks primarily. So I'm going to go back to talking about what happens next. So now that we've identified these issues, we have prepared this transition plan for the city, and this is essentially an implementation guidance document. So each issue found at every sidewalk location, each curb ramp location, and each facility, we've documented what all the specific issues were. And the city will begin implementation of the transition plan starting in fiscal year 2023. So they need time to budget for these improvements that need to be made in order to bring the city in compliance with ADA. And the anticipated completion date of the transition plan is in 2029. There are some facilities that require much more substantial renovation or upgrades to them. And so there's a lot of planning that needs to go around that. And there's some time that the city needs in order to prepare to make those larger improvements. The estimated order of magnitude for the facilities improvements is roughly $1.5 million. And for curb ramps and sidewalks, we've estimated roughly $12 million would be needed to bring all the curb ramps and sidewalks into compliance that we found issues with. I do want to note that this is a very rough cost estimate. Actual cost estimates for each facility, curb ramp, and sidewalk that need some sort of corrective action, those final costs will be determined when the work is bid. We're talking about several years, and construction costs can be unpredictable depending on what the market conditions are. So we did escalate that cost a bit, just so that the city's prepared and not surprised when they go to do the work, and to ensure that they have enough funding for all of that. So we are in the public comment phase of the transition plan. It is my understanding that we have not received any comments on the form that the city has on the website. That's our public comment form that was set up for people to submit written comments. There's also a telephone number that was set up for people to leave verbal comments should they like to do that instead. And we have not received any comments to date, but we would very much like to receive comments. We're also holding this public meeting tonight with the hope that we would have some members of the public join us and provide their comments. So if you're seeing this after the fact, we would highly encourage you to go on the city's website and to please submit your comments regarding the transition plan. The transition plan is available to be downloaded and viewed from the city's website as well. And the public comment period is going to close on May 14th. It's a 30-day required public comment period. And then once we've collected all the public comments, we'll discuss with the city if any changes or adjustments need to be made to the final transition plan. Once the transition plan is finalized, it will be posted on the city's website as a public document. And as I said earlier, formal implementation won't start until 2023, but that doesn't mean that the city's not already doing work. There may already be some work that has already been planned and budgeted and is funded that may be occurring in 2022. And I would expect that most of this would be around curb ramps and sidewalks. So even though this does not formally commence until 2023, or I should say probably July of 2023, some of these issues may be getting corrected sooner than that. And then in terms of how this plan gets implemented, the city's newly designated ADA coordinator will work with departments to implement and track the corrective actions that have been outlined in the transition plan. And then so this is a very standard process that will happen. And that is essentially an overview of the process, why we're doing this, and what the results were of the transition plan, and what the next steps are. So at this point, typically we'd open the floor for public comments. I don't see any members of the public, but should anyone else online have anything else that they want to add or ask or comment on, I certainly welcome that at this point.
Kristen, this is Jennifer Collins, the planning director for the city. I just want to follow up. I'm going to share my screen now, just so the public will, for anyone that is, possibly view this at a later date or pops on before we end. I did add the website address, direct address on this slide here. As Kristen indicated, it is accessible from the city's homepage under our new announcement. There is an announcement on there regarding this public meeting tonight, which will link you to the ADA page that has been created for the city of Goldsboro, where you can find, as Kristen said, the form for any written comments, information about tonight's meeting, as well as the plan, the draft plan for view. We will, as Kristen said, once everything is finalized and we incorporate any comments that we receive, we will update that website with proper forms with regards to complaint procedures and everything like that. It will definitely become a more detailed website once the plan is finalized, and our ADA coordinator, as Kristen said, will track changes or improvements as we implement this plan over the next several years. But due to the delay in the schedule, we were not able to get some of the improvements in this current budget, as we are currently in the budget review process for our FY22. So majority of this will, departments will begin to budget for and address come FY23.
Okay. Well, I have nothing else to add, so I just want to thank everyone for the opportunity for us to assist the city of Goldsboro with this very important project. I feel, having worked in many cities across the country, I feel very confident that Goldsboro is committed to this project, and already the department seem quite enthusiastic about addressing some of the issues that we found. So I'm very pleased, and the city is really taking quick action to get the policies and procedures ready to be put out to the public, as well as appointing a person to serve as the ADA coordinator. So I think all good things are happening in Goldsboro. So I hope everyone else agrees with that too.
Thank you, Kristen. We appreciate all your hard work. Crazy times we've had since taking this project on, but we've challenged through, and we will work to improve the city when it relates to ADA. Again, I encourage anyone to go to our website and review the plan and offer comments. We encourage feedback, and we will do everything we can to incorporate any comments that we receive into the plan prior to it being finalized. And the number that Kristen referenced for those that need to call and discuss any kind of the plan, it is my direct line. And I will be happy to answer any questions. And that number is 919-580-4327. And if we have no one else online, Kristen, again, thank you. And you and I will definitely be in touch once
Oh, yes.
the comment period ends.
Yes.
And again, please reach out to me, public, if you need anything or have any questions, and we will do our best to help. Thank you.
Thank you. Everyone have a good evening.